Welcome to 409's Data Dump Podcast. It's our monthly podcast offering technology bites for the business owner. My name is Sarah Crom, and I'm managing partner of SKC & Co. CPAs and a shareholder of 409 Solutions. 409 Solutions provides technology solutions to small and medium-sized businesses in the areas of dashboard creation, process automation, and software integration. And today we have our guest, Mike Zakreski, co-founder and chief data scientist of 409. Welcome back, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Today, we're going to walk through some samples and share some dashboards with you that Mike has developed that allow professional service firms to run their practices more efficiently and effectively. So let's get started, Mike.
Absolutely. So one of those key, you could say, service industry people that we work with is actually you, Sarah. So I think this is going to be a nice back and forth. We do have a sample dashboard prepared for a accounting firm offering, which is based loosely on your dashboard. So excited to hear about your inputs on how it helps you on a daily basis.
Yeah, so just to give the audience a little background, when 409 Solutions first started delving into the realm of dashboards for professional service firms, why not utilize SKC as the guinea pig, essentially? And so we served in that role, and I think now we've probably got every bit of 13 to 16, maybe a little bit more pages in our dashboard that all three of the partners at SKC have access to. And, you know, it's been a couple of years now. We love it. We can't imagine running the firm without this data and this information in real time at our fingertips. And I can tell you that as early as, or as recently as last week, maybe still this week, we were still making tweaks and changes to different things that we want to see and changes to the dashboard to reflect that.
Exactly. Yeah, great point, Sarah. One thing that we always find, I guess, regardless of the industry, is, we always start with call it a simple project, right? Or usually at least where we're just covering a few topics. But once the business owner or stakeholder gets the report in their hands, we find that's when those gears really start turning. And all of a sudden, you start thinking, oh, I love this metric, but I'd love to see it in this light, or I'd love to see it, by this category or whatever it might be. So there's always great opportunity to expand on dashboards as we progress through an engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know even for us, and the most recent thing that we have modified in our dashboard is we wanted to start tracking clients that we separated from. So we call them inactive clients, and we had to figure out in our data how that was going to be reflected and then what that would look like on our dashboard. But, as I said, when we make changes and decisions as business owners to track things differently or certain metrics that we want to see that maybe we haven't seen before, you guys are always great in getting that up and into our dashboard, in some cases within days.
Oh yeah, that's a great new addition. And that's one that we've actually developed for a few clients, and it's been very impactful as of late. So good idea for a future episode. We can kind of go over that client attrition analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. So where should we start? What should we share first?
I think, well, one thing that all business owners care about is billings and income, right? So I think that is an excellent place to start.
Right to the top line.
So this is a little sample dashboard just for accounting firm management. You notice we have a bunch of different tiles here that are different analyses, but let's go ahead and start right here on the billings page. So this page is definitely, call it the lifeblood of the dashboard. Obviously, income and billings are important for anyone in any industry. But what's impactful about this one, I'm going to go ahead and select year to date and prior year. So right now we're looking at the dates of Jan 1, 2023 through 10/17/2024. Now this is sample data set, so it is a little behind the current date, but still gets the point across here. So what's really great about this page is it shows you how much you billed your clients this year and how much you billed them year to date last year. So it gives you a good analysis of understanding, okay, billings went down for this client, up for this client, kind of gives you the feel as to what's going on this year compared to last year. But also a great addition here is we've done percent of total billings as a separate analysis right next to it. And this purpose of this is just to make sure you're not too consolidated, right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and you don't want to have one client take up the majority of your billings. So this is just here to make sure, for one, you're paying attention to those high billing clients, but also, to keep you aware in case those clients leave, that's a lot of revenue to be replacing.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly concentration of revenue is a key component to that particular section, that we always like to monitor. And, as you said, not have too many eggs in one basket, one client's basket. The other way that we use that particular section as a firm is sometimes we do target advertisements, target learning, target events for our largest clients. And that's a really quick way to click a few buttons and just know, if we want to do our top X number of clients percent wise in revenue, maybe our top 20% clients in revenue, and do, a particular something for those clients. This gives us that list in the touch of a button. And so that's a really convenient, lookup as well. And one of the pieces that, as you said, the comparative billing by client, obviously it's very good to see, did something happen in a particular year? Did we have special projects in one year and not the other? But for us, it's also beneficial to take a peek at that if we know that for whatever reason, maybe we're, no longer going to be servicing that client. Perhaps they've chosen to leave, perhaps they've sold, and we know they're not going to be a client any longer. And we can make strategic decisions and real-time moves looking back at this historical billing data and seeing, okay, this is, what their annual billing revenue is, and this is what we're going to need to replace, or this is how we need to, look at this number as how it's going to impact our budget going forward. So it's really, there's endless ways to use it, but I just know those are some of the key ones that we've used before.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always great hearing how a client is really, really getting value out of a dashboard that we delivered. It always brings a smile to my face. One other thing I wanted to just highlight on this page is, as all of our dashboards that we build, everything is filterable. So you'll notice we have a partner slicer up here, which ends up being pretty helpful. If I was to click on Edward Marshall here, we'd be able to see his specific billings, or if I clicked on Edward and Sutton, we could see them as a combination. Only other part that I wanted to highlight is this sort of area over here. It's a lot of different cards that are tracking different billing related metrics. First of which is realization or profitability by year. Here is the year-to-date totals, which goes outside of our selected dates. So you can see 2022, 2 years ago at a glance. And then this one is super fun, is the progress to the budget goal. So for this, we actually connected to our client's specific budget of what they wanted to track and what they wanted to bring in income-wise. And it's nice to see that year-to-date for this sample that they are over their goal. So it's a nice way, little gauge to see how you're doing compared to what you plan to do at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, clearly I'm a numbers person, right? I'm managing partner of an accounting firm. I love numbers, but this dashboard and the dashboards that you guys have created for us to run the firm by are so much easier to look at and have quick information slices at your fingertips, because a lot of it is very much graph driven, or the one number in a box driven, and we're not flipping through reports and we're not scanning things. It's a very good visual representation of everything that we need to see. And even people like us who love numbers and use them all the time and every day, this is still a much cleaner, easier way for us to get the data that we need.
Absolutely. And I think that bridges us perfectly into our next topic here, which is going to be AR aging. So it's obviously very important for any business owner to know what money is owed to you and how old it is. We find with the majority of our clients, they have an AR schedule either on QuickBooks or on their practice management platform. But AR is a fickle thing, right? It changes every day, every month. You do new billings, and then clients pay, based on their terms. So pulling that report every day definitely gets tedious. And I know it is a process that we have replaced for a lot of the admin teams of the clients that we worked with, where they would send out a daily, a weekly, a monthly AR report. Instead of doing that, you can just come to your dashboard, and that information is always available and perfectly up to date for you.
So I used this as recently as yesterday. My favorite thing about this is there's the same slicers as you had in the previous one, right across the top of the, the different partners individually. So we can filter this, by firm in its entirety. We can filter it by individual partner. And, the functionality of those 1 to 30, 31 to 60, those columns across the top function like Excel. So if Mike were to click on the 120 plus column right now, it's going to do a reverse sort, and it's going to bring all of the clients to the top of this list that have the 120 balances over 120 days. And why that's so important and easy for us to run the practice is we are no longer scanning through PDF reports displayed on the screen to find the clients that have balances over 120 or 90 or whatever it is your metric is that you're looking at. We can sort it like this directly. I can screenshot this and send it to my partners and say, hey, let's work on these, or anybody have an update on these? I can send them to our collections team very, very easily and say, please follow up on all of these over 120, over 90, again, whatever your metrics are. And that is taking away so much time. I mean, what used to happen is we used to get PDF emails of reports to us. We used to scan through them. They were firm-wide, they weren't divided by partner. And we would go through to find our clients, first of all, and then we would go through and find the ones that were over. We follow up with anybody who's over 60 days. So it was a pretty, labor intensive proposition. Plus it was a little bit of an eye test when you keep going through all those reports. So, this is a really great thing to be able to have that Excel type sort functionality here. And again, I used this yesterday. I did this exact thing that Mike just did. I sorted by 120. I think I did over 90 actually. Screenshot it to my partners and say, let's work on these collections for the upcoming week.
Oh yeah, let's get on the horn to those clients, right?
Took me all of about probably 3 minutes to accomplish that whole thing.
That's awesome. It's always great to save time, right? It's time is money at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's good about this for our perspective is, this also came up yesterday when I was looking at this report. A particular client on my list popped out at me, and it wasn't terribly overdue yet, but he had already called and was asking about his current year tax return. So the one we're about to file for 2024. And, I happened to notice that he hadn't paid us yet for 2023's tax return. So I was able to have a different conversation other than, when can we expect your stuff in? It was more along the lines of, we're not going to be able to start working on your 2024 return until we are paid in full for your 2023 return. So, things like that, when you just happen to be able to spot check it, if you're on the phone with a client, it's very easy to go in and say, sometimes they do that. Sometimes they say, hey, do I owe you anything? Very easy to just open this up, click on it, sort it alphabetically by partner, sort it alphabetically by client, click on yourself as the partner, and then find that information out, as opposed to us needing to actually log into our practice management software, open the dashboard for that client and scan through, where I might find that information.
Absolutely. Here we can jump right over to the next one here, which would be employee profitability, right? So as I mentioned pretty recently, time is money, and I'll go year to date on this one. But yeah, this page is a big table, right? And of course, we have different clients where they want big tables or they want more visuals. That's always on the custom level. But this across the top here gets you from your hours to essentially dollars on how profitable or not profitable a particular employee is. And then what is even better about it is if you're curious on profitability at the client level or the detail for what clients this person worked on, you can expand it just like this and see the specific stats or realization for each individual client under that employee.
Yeah, so we've built this for SKC with a lot of functionality, other than what Mike is showing by individual team member. This is really great for us. I've shown this to people at their annual and mid-year reviews, so they can know where they are as far as billable hours go, know where they are as far as percentage of total hours, understand what their realization is. We all have metrics that we need to follow, and a lot of our team members do track things themselves in Excel, but that's not necessarily something that they bring into their reviews, and having this as something that we can share with them is really impactful. But also there's an interesting slicer on this one in the top right-hand corner, where even though this particular display shows all of the team members, Mike can click on one particular client and you're going to see essentially the profitability of that client. So you're going to see all of the team members that worked on that client, and then you're going to see what the billable hours were towards that client, what's been billed, what's been realized, and if there's been a write-up or a write-down on it. And again, the way that you can slice and dice the data is instantaneous, as Mike just showed. as opposed to any time that we're trying to run reports out of our practice management software. It's more than one report. It's doing a calculation, on the side as we pull numbers from several different reports. And Mike literally did this in 10 seconds.
Absolutely. And I got a comment. This is an interesting sample client name I got here. I wonder what Apex Alchemy, what their business is like. I just came up with some random words and threw them together to make fake client names, but that's an interesting one.
That is.
Um, yeah, great way to segment though. We have the exact analysis we just looked at, except now we're in the context of clients, right? So there's our
Yep.
Apex Alchemy once again. But just like that functionality that Sarah was just talking about, we have the opposite functionality here, where if we have all of the clients listed, we can actually pick on a staff member, and now we see all of the clients they work for with the specific stats there. So kind of the opposite, but it is useful to kind of flip things upside down at times.
Yeah. So again, we built these out so that we wouldn't have to flip back and forth between the two. If we were having a conversation in one, we could still kind of slice and dice the information without flipping back and forth between the two. But Mike, if you expose it back to all of the team members,
Mhm.
another one that is interesting and what we've used this for earlier on the billings spreadsheet or in the billings dashboard, I shared that sometimes we'll sort it to say, okay, XYZ client is selling. So what's that revenue number that we're going to be losing, when that sale is final and they, are no longer a client. This serves functionally as the same sorting. So if Mike clicks on the billable hours heading all the way over to the left, it's going to sort the clients by who has the most billable hours attached to it. Now that's not always, the most highest revenue in your company. But what this allows us to do is say that one client that sold, we look that client up on this chart and we can see, let's just say that it was Catalyst Concepts, which is about the fourth or fifth one down on your list, 261 billable hours. So if we know that they sold, okay, yes, we know that that's probably going to be $51,000 of revenue from the year, but we also know that that's 261 ... billable hours that we'll need to replace in the firm, that these several team members that Mike just expanded that detail on have been working on, right? And you can see that Dylan and Fatima and Darwin were the top billers on that client. So they're going to have a good chunk of time available that from a capacity standpoint and from a standpoint of making sure that we're scheduling things properly and filling people's client schedules. We now know this is a void if this client sells or when this client sells that we're going to have to fill. And so again, something that can happen in very quick time as we're having a conversation in a partner meeting, even if we just pop over to one of each other's desks as partners and say, oh, by the way, so-and-so has a letter of intent to sell. We can go into this in that moment and see what those numbers might look like and start thinking and strategizing about how to fill that new business.
Absolutely. Yeah, always great to have that stuff right at the forefront. And I know we're not going to be going over this today, but we do have a separate analysis that does employee capacity and compares employee billable hours to the budget stored for the specific work steps on the practice management system, and also tracks against billable goals set by the partners for the year for each employee. So
Yep.
kind of helps as well if you notice that a lot of capacity is opening up for a client that may be leaving. You can flip over to that one and look to see whose capacity will be opening and what it can be replaced with.
Absolutely. And we've used it on the flip side too. If we know that a client is going out on a maternity or paternity leave, I'm sorry, if we know that the team member is going out on maternity or paternity leave, we can look at what work do they typically work on, who do we have to get coverage for, what clients are going to be impacted. So it's very helpful to see that breakout detail of each of the different pieces as you drill down into the dashboard's functionality.
For sure. Any other thing on this page, or should we move on to the next topic?
I think we covered it.
Great. So let's go to call it a fan favorite. This is the employee non-billable detail.
What
So
every professional service firm owner wants to know, but didn't know they wanted to know it.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, this just outlined all of the non-billable time spent by each employee month over month for the period that we have selected, and then also drills down into the specific work items that they put on their timesheet. So I guess how this is impactful, I would say this bottom chart down here shows just overall time spent, non-billables. So in looking at this at the high level, do any of these jump out to you, Sarah, as ones that you'd want to see more detail on?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in in this dashboard for SKC, and one of the things that we pride ourselves on when we talk about SKC, its team, and non-billable time is we want to make sure that the non-billable time is valuable. So what does that mean? So are we utilizing it for continued education? Are we utilizing it for client investment time, which are feel-good service things that you can do for a client that aren't necessarily billable, but you've read an article that you think is meaningful to a client, so you send them an email, copy the article link, et cetera, et cetera. We wouldn't bill a client for that, but we would stick it to client investment time as a non-billable code. So you want to see not only that there's a reasonable amount of non-billable time, right? Because we can't make money on non-billable time, but we also want to make sure that it's being utilized the best way that it can. And so the frightening part on this particular dashboard is that so much time is spent to general administrative duties. And so what does that mean, right? And then you drill down into that and it populates who the people are who actually have those non-billable codes in their respective timesheets. And you say, okay, well, maybe that makes sense because maybe this is my whole admin team, or maybe that doesn't make sense because, for us, those are our tax managers, and what are our tax managers doing that are general administrative duties. And so you just drill down and get a better sense and an understanding of how people are spending their time. And you stand the chance to uncover something that, we call unintended consequences. Maybe we said it was important for the teams to have weekly meetings, and we didn't really realize what that was going to look like from a non-billable time standpoint. And maybe we're just not getting the value out of those required weekly team meetings.
Mhm.
So you just get to make different decisions. Certainly it spurs conversation, and in many instances we're going and talking to our individual team members and saying, hey, can you explain to me what these particular codes were? If you use the code of reading, what were you reading? Was it research for a client? Should it really be billable? It just sparks communication as well, which is important in any industry, let alone professional services.
Absolutely. And one thing that stood out to me in looking at this is in looking at general administrative duties, we actually have a partner, Sutton Strong here. Seems like he's spending a good amount of time on admin. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, that stands out as, time that maybe should be shifted to somebody on the admin team or another team member with the firm.
Right, right. And when those things pop out at you, it's, you didn't know to ask the question until you see it in front of you like this.
Exactly. Great. And we got one other topic to cover today, which is another fun one, which is business development, right? So obviously we talked about billings, we talked about AR, but you don't get any of that unless you're bringing clients in the door. So for this analysis, what we did is we actually connected the client CRM or intake platform with their practice management platform to be able to compare clients by source and amount billed by source and by specific people or referral sources. So care to any light to that, Sarah?
So what was interesting for us when we built this particular dashboard for SKC is sort of the blocks across the center that have the different years in it. And you don't bring on every client on January 1st and then you recognize a full year of revenue in that 12-month calendar. So this allows us to really understand, okay, of the new clients, what does that revenue look like over several years, right? As they onboard, let's just say July 15th of 2022, how much of that is going to flow into 23, and so on and so forth. But for us, what was really impactful and an aha moment when people always talk about, and this is any business, they want to know the ROI on any marketing campaigns, any dollars that they spend on the marketing side, what's the ROI? And so what we learned as a firm when our dashboard was populated with the information from our CRM is that 67% of our new business comes from referrals. So we weren't necessarily, spending our time then going out to networking events or, necessarily doing speaking engagements, because those weren't the things that were generating the significant dollars and the significant introductions for new business. So we really focused in on, okay, what's already paying dividends as far as new business coming in, and how do we cater to and build more of that, that source of new clients and new business referrals up. And it just changed a little bit of our strategy as we saw the data and we saw the success we were having with referral sources. And we built a marketing strategy around really amping that up and taking care of the people that refer us that business.
Absolutely. And that's clearly shown down here as well. If you want to know who those people are that you really want to take care of, they are sorted by total. So you can see this individual rating has actually brought in a ton of business to the firm. So somebody you definitely want to keep close attention to.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it was a really interesting eye opener for us. And, when we talk about dashboards and key metrics and measuring things, people often think of some of the dashboards that we've already looked at and what's tied to the practice management software. But to be able to show something that, again, shows the ROI on marketing dollars, it's connected to our CRM. Yes, it's connected to our billing software as well, but the majority of this information comes from our CRM. It was really something that we were surprised and happy to see work so well. And it was something we were able to share with clients too, who again are always looking for, how do I know that these marketing dollars are being, distributed appropriately and focusing on the right thing?
Yeah, marketing is really a hard thing to calculate that ROI by, right?
Yeah.
And we've done other strategies too on top of this to include, if you're running paid ads on LinkedIn or Instagram or anything like that, we've kind of worked that ROI into an analysis kind of like this, just to give you the full picture of that return on investment.
Yep. It's terrific. And I like when you go back to, and I just wanted to mention this, when you go back to the main page, even though it says, that the heading talks about an accounting firm management dashboard, this really can go with, and you have served many other professional service firms, not just accounting firms. Although, with our practice management software, you guys are pretty much experts in building out these dashboards now. So we do have a lot of accounting firm clients, but you've done this for law firms, you've, done this for other marketing firms and things like that. So it's very customizable to whatever software you currently have. And the information, again, when we talk about people being our biggest asset, these are some of the dashboards that we know are the most impactful.
Absolutely. And I will say, for the service industry specifically, there are a ton of platforms out there, right? You have all these different time management, billing, whatever it might be. We've worked with most of them at this point, I feel like. So we're always excited for a new challenge if it's something that we haven't worked with, but we do have a ton of experience with what's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Any closing thoughts, Mike, that you want to share with the audience?
Nothing at all, other than, if you're an accounting firm partner or, you're in finance or anything along those lines, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to, jump on a call, talk through these topics. Even if it doesn't make sense for us to work together, I'm always happy to guide you into the proper practices for your analytics.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today, Mike. I appreciate it.
Really appreciate the time. Thank you, Sarah.
And thank you to our audience for tuning into this episode of Data Dump. We hope that you found inspiration in today's conversation and that seeing some of these dashboard samples made you jealous that you don't have this data at your fingertips for your company. Remember that the world of technology is full of possibilities, so never stop learning. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with someone who you think would love it as well. Join us at next time as we continue to explore the power of technology in our ever-changing world.